Double pop, worship zone, new mercy mornings on your Wednesday morning. You made midweek. You did. You just did it. Unbelievable, right? Here we are, middle of the week already. It's going by so fast, it seems, right? But no matter what you're going through, the Lord's here with you, and so are we. And we're going to get you right through this week like nothing ever happened. And then all of a sudden it's going to be the weekend again, and you're going to be back to having some fun and some rest and all that. But we still got half the way to go. But we're with you. We'll be here throughout the morning, burst in from time to time, have a few giggles, have a scripture to have some good stuff planned, something a little sad today, but we'll cross that bridge with somebody this morning. Okay, double pop worship zone, New Mercy mornings. It is 6 after the hour on your Wednesday. Don't go away. Double pop, worship zone, Wednesday morning, 10 to the hour. And you know what 10 to the hour means, right? Yep, verse of the day, because, well, you know, Jesus, right? One of the all-time biggies here today. Philippians 3, verse 14, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. Indeed, you know, every day is another step. Every day is another moment forward. I remember one time a couple of years ago, you struggle with you think this verse has one meaning to you, and then all of a sudden, somebody can break out another good inspiration for this verse. Like I do, and like I have done, I've struggled with, the things to do with, assurance and whatnot. And, a couple of times, two pastors broke out that verse to me to just explain it all, just to kind of put me in the right direction, because this is the direction, right? And they said, there's, whatever's going to happen, you can't help it, okay? It's out of your hands. It's all out of your hands. It's all in the Lord's hands. You can think what you want to think, and it doesn't, and in the end, the most important thing is that you stay on the road. Just stay on the road. Sometimes you don't know where you're going. Okay, you're not sure where you're going, but the road, you're sure the road is right. But, every once in a while you have your doubts, and you're on the right road, but you're getting in your own way, and the way of the Lord is just straight ahead. Just continue to focus on the road. Okay? Keep your eyes on the road. Keep your eyes on the prize. Get out of your head. Get all that other stuff off yourself. It doesn't really have any value. All you're doing is creating a roadblock for yourself on the road to the ultimate prize. So now and then, we need to get out of our own way. And that's the biggest thing that we do, is we get ourselves in our own way. And we're in our own head, and we allow our head to do the work for us. And this isn't what he wants. He wants us fixated on one thing. On heaven. On him. Not necessarily in all those orders, but it's the same thing. It's hard to stop and put all of this out of our way. Okay? It seems almost impossible to do. Okay? But hey, all things are possible, as it's also in Philippians. But you see, the thing is that we create our own roadblocks. My issue with assurance is my roadblock. I work through it. And it's something that I allow to get out of hand, because I could remove it tomorrow if I would just put more faith in the road I'm on. And that's my struggle. Your struggle's different. It's all right. We all will have our roadblocks. But the ultimate goal is to remove the roadblocks and keep your eyes fixated in one place, because that's where we're all going to meet up, right? That's where we're going to meet up. Double Pop, Worship Zone. Looking forward to meeting you at the party. 5 minutes to the hour on your Wednesday. Double Pop, Worship Zone, Wednesday morning, 20 minutes to the hour. Today's an incredibly sad day. Incredibly sad day. Our office dog, Shelby, is gonna cross the Rainbow Bridge today. It's reached her time. She is 17 years old. This dog has had a wonderful life, but this dog also gave wonderful life to her family, and gave a wonderful life to us in the office. She retired from the office a few years ago. I was hoping she'd be there for my 20th anniversary celebration at work, but she wasn't there. She wasn't feeling well that day. But it was Shelby. Let me put it to you this way. First of all, I'm not a dog person. I have kitties. Everybody knows I'm a kitty person. I am not big on dogs. I have never been a fan of dogs. I bit as a kid. I had a dog, and I just was never fond of dogs after that. Shelby's probably one of maybe 5 dogs I've ever really liked. Okay? And that's because Shelby wasn't like a dog. Shelby was like a coworker. Truly. She was a certified service dog, a Yale graduate from the Yale School of Service Dogs. It's a real thing. She was as bright as could be. Lazy as the day is long, just kind of lay there, sort of a loping sort of dog. But there was no dog smarter than Shelby. She was so smart. And if somebody had a problem in the office, or one of the patients needed a companion or whatever, she was right there, knowing something wasn't right. She always knew. I used to torment Shelby at times, okay? The other Dave I work with, her owner, would leave, and Shelby would get all nervous and look out the window and whatever and think, where's he going? And I'd always say, Dad's headed for the bar, and he's going to come home mad, and he's going to be violent. And just to be annoying to her. But then she'd come and sit with me for a while, because she knew I had food for her, which I was not authorized. We all were arrested and interrogated many times for feeding Shelby unauthorized food and whatever. She was no worse for it. She got up 17 years. My other coworker would give her Polish food and whatever, and you knew that was going to rail her stomach, but she loved it. She always knew to come to me, and she always knew just where to sit so that Dave wouldn't see her. Get food from me, and she knew I'd keep my eye out. And she knew me by Uncle Vic. If somebody said to her, go see Uncle Vic, she'd go visit me, and she knew who I was by that name. And the reason I was called Uncle Vic was because of Michael Vick, his history with dogs. Not that I was ever violent to a dog or started dog fights or anything like that, but everybody knew that I was the person in the office that wasn't crazy about dogs. But that didn't apply to Shelb. When I had my first COVID shot. And, you felt the effects of that COVID shot. That COVID shot, first one, was miserable. Positively miserable. The after effect of it, not the warm up shot, but the one right after it. It was, you felt every bit. And I came to the office the next day after the shot, and I had and soon as she came in, she knew, and was like, something's not right. And she went right and sat with me, and she's like, yeah, Uncle Vic don't feel good, huh? And she stayed with me the whole day to make sure I was all right. And then, until I went home early, but she stayed with me the whole day and wouldn't leave my side. And I'll always remember that. That dog gave Dave's family the best. And they gave her the best. It was one of the warmest bonds between a dog and a family I think I've ever witnessed. She was just like really having another member of the family. Last few years, she got to the point where she couldn't move very well. Car rides were hard, things like that. So she stopped coming to the office. So she retired. She no longer came in. We keep her spot open just in case she shows up anytime, but her little bed is waiting for her, but she won't be going in it anymore. Today's her final day, and she can no longer walk, and her quality of life has bottomed dramatically. And but I'm really grateful for that dog. She was really a treasure. And I'll always have fond memories of her. Double Pop Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings. Shelby, rest in peace when the time comes. Double Pop Worship Zone, New Mercy Morning, about 20 minutes to the hour. So, I know some people who went to a show the other night, and people are at the point where, before and I ain't gonna get no big political fest here, so anybody wants to get political, don't, okay? But people are starting to go to shows, and the one thing they don't want is they don't want to be accosted by politics, okay? They just want to go hear the music and have a good time. And, so now people are starting to call ahead to venues saying, is there any repercussion that we could take, any means to remedy that if the performer starts getting all offensive and political on stage, that if we want to leave the show, is there any way we can get a refund or whatever? And some places are actually, one person I know called a place like that and whatever said, yeah, we've gotten several phone calls of the kind. And we have had a discussion with the management of the performer, and they've assured us that there will be no political scene on stage. And that we will issue refunds if people want to leave the show based on that and whatever. I was kind of surprised to hear that they were willing to do that, but they said that they would actually find a way to hold it against the artist. And how that would be done, I'm not exactly sure. They're usually paid a flat rate for the night, but nonetheless, it's like, yeah, now there's an angle. I was beginning to think that, now what they ought to do is they ought to sell like an insurance. Okay, that concert insurance. Okay, that if you go to a concert and the artist starts to act like a jerk on stage, or they start running their mouth about politics or whatever, and they start to make it all about them and their political views and whatever, and the focus falls off the music and the concert and the enjoyment of what everybody paid a lot of money to go to. I mean, in some cases you're talking several $100s for one of these shows. And you get there, and then, somewhere, in the middle of the show, in you get about 10 or 15 minutes of the person's political views. And that's not what you paid for. Okay, whether you agree with it or not, it's not what you paid for. You paid to go hear the music. And I'm kind of, if you want to walk out on a show like that, okay, you would feel like you want to at that point. It's like, it kind of ruins the rest of the night, because now you don't really want to listen to them anymore, even if they're playing your favorite songs. If for some other reason, even if you liked their politics or whatever, I'd have to think that like the rest of the night is like, kind of blasé at that point, right? How can you get back into the show and enjoy the music? But if you don't like their views, it's like, now I don't even want to hear your music. Like, you kind of ruined the show for me. You kind of, you stole my money here, because I'm not really having a good time anymore. So I kind of wonder if there isn't like a way to do that, to have like an insurance policy on your concert, that when you go there and if the performer gets ridiculous, there's a way to get your money back on it, and maybe then some, provided you can prove that they did that on stage. Who knows? Maybe we're on to a new business. We'll have to take this one to Shark Tank, and we'll see how it goes. Double Pop Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings on your Wednesday. Double Pop Worship Zone, New Mercy Morning, 15 after the hour. Where I am and where you are, I just exploded a sneeze. But anyway, your favorite time in the morning and mine, minor holidays, observances day, Chicken Wing Day, National Chicken Wing Day. Okay. Yeah, it's weird that's the middle of the summer, right? That seems like something that should happen more towards like Super Bowl time, when wings are, are really, really big, I mean, that's what it should be, right? But who are we to say? We're just the little folk. International Tiger Day, okay? Hey, it's a day to honor the tigers. Keep them protected and safe. Nobody should be messing with tigers. Tigers are awesome. It is National Rain Day. Okay, perfect for today, because it's drenching out pretty good. Definitely a good day to observe rain, for sure. Also, my favorite one today is one that, well, should be, and it's also weird. It's in the middle of summer, but, I guess, is there really ever a bad time for this? International Lasagna Day. Come on. Lasagna rules, okay? I could eat lasagna every day. I really could. Lasagna, ravioli, any of that stuff. Lasagna was, but the problem with lasagna is the fact that, see, like ravioli, when you saw lasagna come out, okay, you knew you were in the middle of something special. Now, lasagna, like I was talking about on Popcast one day, now you have lasagna. It's it could be Tuesday for. Don't be breaking out no lasagna to me. Today's Wednesday, okay? Wednesday is Prince Spaghetti Day, okay? Not Lasagna Day. Sunday is Lasagna Day. And holidays are Lasagna Day. And you know what? If you were from one of those houses, okay? If you were from one of those houses, one of those Italian houses that, the grandmother, it was Thanksgiving, okay? The turkey was made, okay? My grandmother could not make that turkey to save her life. In fact, we're pretty sure she destroyed it on purpose. I think she'd get up at like 4 a.m. and start cooking it to the point, because I think they told her that that's what you have to do. But she'd make sure that every bit of moisture of that turkey was gone when she was done. It was dust, okay? But see, she wanted you to have that lasagna she made. She's got that lasagna all made up. No matter Thanksgiving, pilgrims, who the heck are they? Here's some lasagna. That was the plan, okay? get those potatoes and stuffing and all. Yeah, you can have that. The way she looked at it was like, all right, you can have that stuff if you want it because it's Thanksgiving. That's what you're supposed to have, I guess. But why would you want it if there's this wonderful lasagna I made? Okay? She knew what she was doing. And there was always a plan. And, she was willing to carry it out, willing to execute the plan. Lasagna came when lasagna hit the table. You knew you were in the middle of something special. But she also will find a way to even deflect the Thanksgiving world and any other holiday. Some grandmothers put lasagna out in them. Any holiday, lasagna hit the table, okay? And it didn't matter if you were having hamburgers and hot dogs. There was going to be lasagna somewhere along the way. And that was how it was done. I don't know. Sometimes those days are over. It's like I said, somebody's going to throw lasagna at you on the middle of the week. But, that's the way it is these days. Double Pop, Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings, 20 after the hour. Double Pop, Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings, 15 after the hour. Yeah. So, one of the best things that happened at the event, the Friends and Family event that I participated in up in Suffield, I did my bit on the pulpit. And spent probably the first 4 or 5 minutes telling stories, joking around, doing my impersonations, which everybody knows is one of my specialties. The impersonations were the Lord's idea. He gave them to me. What he wants me to do with them is up to him. Anyway, so that's what I did. I was up there kind of making the light of the situation before I turned it around and applied my humor, like I do, much like I do here. Sometimes I get, I will goof around with people or even with the situation, and then I apply it to something, related to the Lord. And when it was over, met a lot of people, and a guy came up to me, and he was like, this is one of the best things that ever happened in this church. He says, it was you up there, he says, doing your thing. He says, I was confused though. He says, the first few minutes you were up there, he says, I'm looking at you like, this is a guy who's a Christian. He gave himself to the Lord and everything. He's doing a testimony, but he's doing it as a comedy act like this. And he says he's like a stand-up comedian. I'm saying, is he really like a believer? And then he says, and then 3 minutes later, he says, I had absolutely no question in my mind that you were. He says, I was then convinced. He said, you have the Lord in your heart. And I was like, that may be one of the nicest things anyone ever said to me. I don't mind that, you're being funny and whatever. And I know that the regular believer will look at you and say, is that really from the Lord? Well, who said the Lord said we couldn't? Said we laugh at anybody or laugh at things or whatever, as long as nobody's getting hurt. Nobody got hurt. We were having a good time. Telling stories. I was telling stories about how I met Dr. Knight. And, it was a funny moment. And the guy who was the minister there, he's a conduit to the whole thing. And I impersonated him. And it turned out a bunch of people in the place knew who he was. So as soon as they heard me talking in his voice, and it's amazing I remember how he sounded even 30-something years later. And people were like, yeah, that's him, all right. And, and is this really a good thing? But then when it was all over, I tied it all together and brought it in a package to the Lord. And, for somebody to say to me, I wasn't sure about you, but now I'm sure, I'm beyond sure. And now he goes, I was just glad. He says, I'm just glad, he says, that to have your testimony today. He says, because it was one of the most inspirational things I think I've heard in a while. And I was like, see, the Lord does bring humor to people, and humor is inspirational, and humor does get people to focus, as long as nobody gets hurt. Okay, humor keeps people's eyes on the situation, and when you can bring the Lord into it, you know what, the Lord had a sense of humor himself. Okay, you're not going to tell me the Lord wasn't laughing at people. Of course he was. Everything wasn't serious. Certainly the situation with me meeting Andy was not a serious situation. Telling that story, there was even more to it I didn't use because I only had so much time. But I was glad I did that, but I was also glad for the encounter and so many people coming up to me afterwards saying, your testimony was just, wonderful. And I'm just, and knowing that the first bunch of minutes of it were comedy, really said to me, you're doing the right things. You're okay. You really are okay. Double Pop Worship Zone, 20 after the hour, and like I've said, when we get the audio of it, I'm gonna play it on here just for a few giggles for everybody, and hopefully you giggle too. Double Pop Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings, 10 minutes to the hour. That's going to wrap it up for this Wednesday, and we will end things right where they are here, okay? Do not forget, posted right afternoon time is the audio encore of all things New Mercy Morning from today. In case you missed anything, you won't have to miss anything. You can just go right there and listen to it. Or if you feel like it, you can just listen to it right on the station tonight at 8 o'clock, okay? 10:30 tonight, night flight. Don't miss night flight. Soothe, relax, go to sleep, and chill out with the Lord, and he'll wake you up in the morning tomorrow with sunrise, S-O-N rise, and that can get you going, get the day started right before New Mercy Mornings to get you ready for another day. So in the meantime, I'm Dave, Double Pop, praying that Jesus leaves the light on for you, and I wish you nothing but peace.